Welcome to Behind the Sports Medicine Podcast, the podcast that pulls back the curtain on the evolving world of sports science. I'm Andrew Rizza, an athlete trainer with decades of experience in professional, collegiate, and high school sports.
And I'm Cameron Roth, an orthopedic surgeon and a consultant for the Chicago White Sox.
In each episode, we'll explore the real-world challenges and opportunities facing today's human performance professionals.
Our hands-on experience is transforming sports medicine and breaking barriers through innovation and teamwork.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to this week's Behind the Sports Medicine Podcast. This week, we have Domonique Foxworth, who's the host of the Domonique Foxworth Show, former NFL player. And he was gracious to come on today. We're very excited for this.
We're excited to have Domonique Foxworth join us today. Former NFL cornerback with the Broncos, Falcons, and Ravens, host of the extremely popular Domonique Foxworth Show, former president of the NFL Players Association, proud friend of our friend and former guest Charlie Kravitz, and Harvard Business School graduate. So Domonique, appreciate your time. Welcome to the show, my friend.
Appreciate it, man. Yeah, Charlie's a good dude. It's our guy.
Hey, Domonique, so earlier in your career as a young football player, when did you decide that you wanted to play in the NFL? When did that come about?
Yeah, I was 6. Honestly, I remember pretty clearly telling my dad. He was in the military, so at this time we were stationed in Indianapolis, which helps with like the memory. I went to kindergarten and first grade out there, and I remember being in first grade telling my dad. We had an apartment like just off of the base at I guess it's Fort Benjamin Harrison. And I remember telling him I wanted to be a professional football player. And he said, okay, well, you have to set a goal. That's good. And you have to do something to work towards it. Get yourself closer to it every day. And me being 6, I just decided that I was going to do enough sit-ups to get myself in the NFL that night. And so, I shit my pants. and my dad then had a conversation with me about moderation. And I was like, oh. As an adult now, I can look back and realize that it was like he saw this as an opportunity to like teach me. I don't know that he actually thought I was going to the NFL when I was 6, but he saw his opportunity to like teach me about setting goals and working towards them or whatever. And I just like, you know what? Okay, Pops has the answer. Let's do it right now.
So that happened when you were 6, and then of course you were a great player in high school, and then when you went to college, did you completely know that the NFL was your goal, or were there things in the back of your mind that you thought, oh, I need a plan B or plan C when I'm at college?
It's funny because I never really started to. I was always a pretty good student and always wanted to imagine that I would do something more than just be an athlete at some point in my life, because it's impossible to only be an athlete. My parents saved a piece of art that I did when I was young that said I was going to be a professional football player, a part-time pediatrician, and and married to a supermodel, which I thought was a career also at the time.
Reading for
yeah. And so being like you guys in medicine was attractive. I mean, just the idea of doing something that was also intellectually challenging was always attractive to me. So I never really thought about it as a plan B. And I've had this conversation with Charlie before about doubt. And I never really had it. The funny thing is, I think not all kids, but a lot of young men specifically are like, I want to be a pro athlete because it's like the coolest thing we can think of when we're kids. And Charlie and I laugh about the moment when everyone finds out, oh yeah, no, I have to think about something else. This isn't for me. And he talks about being in playing he was around a bunch of really good baseball players I know in high school and younger ages. He's like, oh, he realized he was just like, he had to make everyone laugh because he wasn't going to be a great athlete. But the thing for me is I never had that experience, and it sounds kind of cocky, but it's true. Like, I was the best kid in my elementary school, and then you go to a higher level in my Pop Warner team in middle school. Like, we lost in the national championship, and I was a really good player. Then go to high school, and I'm the best kid there. Then I go to college, and I went to college early. Back then, I think Phillip Rivers was the first player to do that, like, half-year thing. And then the very next year, my coach was like, you have enough credits, you should try. So I went up to college early, and that was a rough like winter workouts and spring ball was tough. But then by the time fall came around, I was pretty good. And I started the final couple games as a freshman and got player of the game in my first game. And then the next year I was preseason all ACC and then all ACC at the end of the year. So like there was never really a point where I was like, oh, this is not a realistic possibility. Ironically, the first time I thought about life after football was while I was in the NFL when I got traded to the Falcons.
Yeah, that makes sense. You know, I was talking to Charlie and I said, what kind of guy is Domonique? And Charlie spends a lot of time around professional athletes, and I do a little bit with the Chicago White Sox. But he said, just like you described, everything, at least athletically and performance-wise, just comes slightly easier to you than it would be to me or our friend Danny, who is an all-star left-handed pitcher. Everything just slightly comes easier. So it's great to hear that perspective that you sort of knew you were the best in middle school, you were the best in high school, you were the best in college. And that's not something that we all have at our fingertips.
Certainly not me.
Yeah, no, it's funny because I think that's what happens is you're confronted with a kid at some point that's so much better than you that you're like, oh no, this doesn't work. And I also I was always kind of a hard worker, and it wasn't until like late in life in my 20s that I realized that a lot of it was, I mean, my hard work mattered, of course, but just better, dude. Like I was born better than people at certain things, and not everything. Like I had some certain gifts, but I used to think like, yeah, I just worked my way to being this great athlete. Well, yeah, maybe, but also you figure it out when you you get new sports. I think that was like the best way is when someone introduced something else to me or like a new game or something, and then like after a week, I was pretty damn good at cornhole. Whatever connection between my brain and telling my muscles what to do is, it works pretty well. And there are higher levels of this. And I tell this story sometimes is when I got drafted by the Broncos, Champ Bailey was out there, in my view, the best cornerback ever. But if not that, one of the best in the history of the league, top 5 for sure. He was out there and I was so excited. I was like, man, I'm going to learn so much. I'm going to do everything that he does. It didn't take but a couple of days to realize, oh, I can't. Actually, it was the first time that I was physically like, oh no, I see this technique that he's using. It's working really well for him. I should go do it. And then I'll go try to do it. It's like, no, I can't tell my top half to do something that's like incongruent with what my bottom half is doing, and then also like run a 4.3 at damn near 200 pounds and also be 6'1" and do all this. Like I was like, oh, this is what everyone else felt like when I was getting mad at them for not making a play. Like, no, I just physically can't do it.
So because Champ is even more physically gifted than you were?
Hell yeah, so much more. And I didn't think that like I mentioned, it was a revelation for me at that point. Not that I was like the best player ever, but it was like there were never things that other people could do that I couldn't also do. And there were other people, like obviously in college, that were like better at certain things than me, but like we were in the same range. This was the first time that I was like, oh, like I can't actually do that drill. Like I just can't do the things that your body can do. And it was I think that's what happens to other people when they're like 10 or 14 or 16. And then I was like, oh shit.
Yeah.
It's tough to find that out in the NFL. Like, oh yeah, I've reached my ceiling.
Yeah.
But when during that time did you feel like recovery was one of the issues or was it an issue for you in developmental wise from college to pro, and how did you handle that?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the toughest thing about recovery, honestly, and my daughter is a good track athlete, and so last night she was asking about recovery because she had a meet. It was a 2-day meet, and like all the qualifiers were on Saturday and the finals were on Sunday, and so she wanted to figure out how to recover better in between. And I was like, well, we used to fill up buckets in training camp. We'll fill up trash cans with ice.
Cold plunge.
Yeah, and do the cold plunge. And so she did her first cold plunge last night at 14, and she hated it, of course. And I did it with her, and I hated it, of course. But that was like college. That was like the first introduction to recovery, was like there's this major sacrifice. And some people, I don't got a lot of body fat. I'm not sure if it matters, but it felt like it mattered at the time. And that cold plunge would hurt like hell for the first 90 seconds every single time.
Yeah, I think that's what we see a lot. That like you mentioned with your daughter, the cold plunge, Normatex things to help with the athlete. But how did that then transpire into your relationships with your athlete training staff, sports medicine staff to help keep you healthy during that process, so you could perform at a high level?
Yeah, honestly, I think that I feel old at this point because we didn't the attention to detail on that stuff on recovery and like preparation and all that stuff, it wasn't as high then as it is now. And so our training staff in college and most of the NFL teams were much more focused on treatment when something went wrong. And we spent a good amount of time talking about yoga and stretching and things like this that were more preventative, but there wasn't a whole bunch of attention paid to that, which I understand now there's a lot more attention paid to like the science of recovery and also like injury prevention. So that was the extent of our like recovery, was like what you could do on your own. Sometimes they would bring in someone to help you stretch that was voluntary, and the ice buckets were there if you wanted to use them, but there wasn't a whole bunch of like, not a whole bunch, there wasn't much structure around it. Like at the day after a game, we'd come in and run 100s in order to like try to push the lactic acid out. That was like it. Everything else was like, y'all need to go get some sleep and do whatever recovery things that you would normally do.
Is this team by team, or did you see that after you retired and were running, or were the player representative and president for the NFL Players Association, did you see that this is an NFL-wide thing? And what did you advocate for, and what has changed for player safety and sports medicine during that time?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a copycat situation, man. I don't know who first started it, but once it starts to happen, all the teams start to get on it. And I think it's also with like the motion tracking data and heart rate monitoring stuff. Like I think you can deduce how much exertion each player is getting and when their body is in tougher situations. Obviously, you guys probably know this better than I do, but that seemed to be something that was happening when I first started getting into media, and then it was the whole league and all the players know it. And I think I feel like a hack talking about social media, but I think that also plays a role in just about everything, where like information spreads so fast and someone looks up and is like, oh, this guy's doing something, and everyone else copies it. So to be honest with you, player safety, our initiatives in player safety from the union side didn't have much to do with recovery as much as it was about concussions. Like once we found out about or got access to the information that the league was withholding about concussion safety, then that became a major focus. And what we kind of learned was we don't really know much, and the best thing we can do is try to reduce the number of hits overall. We don't know like when they are or how intense, or the science around CTE is very early.
Now, how did the NFL change their policy once that all came out? Was there less hitting in practice, less contact in practice to try to prevent injury, day to day? And then also, I know that they provided spotters up on the booths,
right?
But how much influence do the spotters have on an organization we know that the NFL is a huge business, right? So how does that change player perspective? And then how do the players then, is there still that thought process of withholding information because they know if they're not playing, then they could potentially lose their position and their livelihood?
It's pretty, the incentives in this situation are not always all that clear, which makes it hard when some players are not incentivized to protect themselves or incentivized to put themselves at even more risk. Like it's a tough situation to be in. And your question about the spotters are supposed to have complete authority to pull someone off the field and not. And I think we've seen situations where it's worked well and seen situations where it hasn't. But part of the problem is it's not a broken bone, it's not something that's clear and obvious. And I think the way that we approach this, and one of the major shifts was in mentality, and that very quickly after we started to learn more about concussions, we went from revering the guys who were tougher and fought through to like trying to look out for each other. but it was harder to shake the mentality in yourself than it was to recognize it in someone else. So that was the thing I remember most was like, obviously I was a player too, and I'd have a hit or something, and then it's like, I got to get back out there. But when I see someone else take one, it was like, oh, no, somebody's got to do something about this. Check this guy out. And that was one of the like biggest kind of surprises or I guess not surprises, but I was impressed and proud of the players for doing that, but also like recognize that how it feels, because we go back to being 6 years old. Like the reason why I wanted to play football was because I viewed it as the game that the men played. It was like basketball was not for the tough kids. Soccer was for the even softer kids. Like football is where the men go. And so like that was the violence in football, as much as we are concerned about it now, was a big draw for me. And I think there's so much like specifically American bravado in it that's hard to shake, when the whole reason you're showing up is to demonstrate that you're tougher than the rest of the people out there. So it certainly gets in the way. But yeah, I think what we wanted to do first was reduce the number of hits to the head in situations that didn't matter. So like you have to hit in practice sometimes, but we really wanted to eliminate as much of that as possible.
Do you find that trickling down to youth sports? Even you could go concussion specific in football, or just youth sports in general, working on injury prevention and recovery? I know your daughter's a great athlete.
Yeah.
You see that now?
I think it's scattershot. So I think there are some places that do a good job of it. Everyone's certainly much more aware of it. And to go back to like the social media aspect of it, is everyone is still emulating what they see from the top. So I think when kids who are really into athletes see professional athletes doing these sorts of things, they're aware of them and they want to mimic it. It's right down to the celebrations on the field. And like, I have 2 daughters, and my son in the middle plays flag football and wants to start tackle next year. But everything that his little celebrations is like all just ripped from TV, and all that emulation. Like, I think it translates to everything. They want to live like athletes, and they want to recover like pro athletes. They want to train like pro athletes.
That's kind of a double-edged sword, don't you think? I mean, you have the highest, performance athletes, the most visible people who are incredible role models for certain things, but unfortunately, other aspects of their life, they may not be the best role models for anyone's children.
Oh yeah, I mean, I think the idea of, I've never had a problem with athletes as role models, and I guess it starts from being an athlete myself, but I always thought that like, if the athlete's doing something crazy that you don't like, then that's an opportunity to talk to your kid about the athlete doing something crazy that you don't like, or talk to them about people not being perfect. And I don't know, I've never been concerned very much with like my son copying the celebrations is one thing. Doing other things that, let's say, I don't know, Anthony Edwards is up to, right? Like I don't have any problem having conversations with him about responsibility and all these other things. So like, I don't care so much about that. Like these athletes aren't raising my kids. It's just like with anything, we watch a movie that has like some violence or sex scene or something in it that like we need to talk about it, or we need to talk about it. It's not Anthony's responsibility to raise my kids. It may be his to raise his own.
No, we're France,
yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I think one of the interesting things, I know you guys wanted to get to this at some point, is like, and this is connected, I think, to emulating the athletes, but it's just in general is like the professionalization of youth sports. Mm-hmm. And I think we see, particularly in basketball, the injury numbers, I think, are connected to the amount of like hours that they're putting into their body doing these repetitive motions, and they get to the league already beat up because they're already playing like a more than NBA schedule. And that's like, as I coach my son's flag football team, he has friends who are like playing lacrosse and basketball, and it's just everything is travel and year round, and there's no regulatory body to like govern all of these sports and all of this effort and all the money and all the time and all the risks that the kids are taking. It's I feel like it's already out of control to some degree.
Now, when you look at injury, just specifically yourself, when you had injuries throughout your career, what was your relationship with the athletic training staff, physical therapy staff, the team physicians, and how was that mindset on your end? Like, what was your thought process during that when you had your injuries?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was fortunate, honestly. Like, I didn't start having very many injuries till towards the end of my career, but the training staff always liked them. They were always cool, but I wanted to stay the hell away from them. I had no desire to be in the training room ever. Whenever I had any sort of bump or bruise or nick, like I'd get the minimal amount of treatment that I needed and get the hell out of there, which I think that was more about like the culture of the sport, and that the coaches would make it clear, like, oh, this is a training room guy. You never wanted to be a training room guy. But yeah, I mean, if you tear something, that's entirely different. I remember having my rookie year, I'm separating my shoulder in training camp, and like cortisone shot, took a day off, and then you're back to work. And fortunately, my shoulder doesn't give me much trouble now, but I had the same thing with a sprained ankle. I had a high ankle sprain and missed a few weeks, but I got a cortisone shot. Eventually, I was back out there. And so that the pressure is always there, whether it's external or internal. Like, you feel the pressure, particularly if you're on a good team. Like, you got to get back out there with your guys, and that's one thing that you're never going to be able to do anything about, because it's I think it's the drawback of one of the most powerful things about sports, especially at a young age, is like you do feel like you're really owe it to your teammates, and that's a great thing. But it also makes it feel like the right thing to do is also like the unhealthy and the unsafe thing to do.
Do you think that has to do with the uncertainty of, when you're in the NFL or even a big Division I college? Is it the uncertainty of what the next day looks like for you, and that makes you stay, out of the eyes of the medical staff just so you can stay on the field?
Oh, yeah, I think there's a couple different drivers of that. I think that's one of them for sure. And then I think the other one is just like when you're on the sideline and you're watching guys out there hurting and sweating and bleeding for a cause that you thought you were a part of. Like, that's when I tore my ACL in Baltimore. It was pretty sad, man, because it was like it happened on the first day of training camp, and you don't feel, no one talks to you, no one's coaching you, no one cares about you, and you just feel disconnected from the team. You feel like a glorified fan at some point. So I think that is probably more powerful, although you're concerned about how the coaches view you, but that drive is more powerful to feel like you're one of the guys than anything else.
How'd you know that it was time to hang it up?
Yeah, I just wasn't the same when I came back. And this is probably pretty interesting for you guys in general, because I tore my ACL right before the lockout, and we went to the lockout and I didn't have access to the training staff. And so I think I came back a little behind than I would have in a normal situation. So I never quite felt right. And I think that, combined with having participated in CBA negotiations and just gotten more of a taste for the business world, those things together was like, yeah, that training staff, or that time together, like I had a sheet that I was working off of at a local gym. It was crazy for an NFL athlete to be like trying to do recovery with a staff that's working with like elderly people. It just was not the right way to do it. And that was certainly on me. I probably should have put in some more effort to find a better staff, but that's who the Ravens suggested for me, and that it didn't really work out.
Has that changed with the new CBA agreement? Is that changed as far as what you have access to? If
so the problem, no. If there's another lockout or strike or something like that, I assume it feels like more athletes now have access to and use their own staff that's not associated with the team. I didn't have that back then, and a lot of players didn't have that back then. So I imagine that changes things. But no, it wouldn't change if there's a strike or lockout or any sort of work stoppage there, unless they negotiate something new in. As it stands now, the whole point of it is it's supposed to be uncomfortable. So there is no like way to make it safer and easier and better and some collaboration.
Well, anybody can still come to me or Dr. Roth, so we'll take care of you.
There we go. Appreciate it. Too late for me. I'm 42. These
Well, we can
muscles barely work.
I'm down in D.C. every once in a while. My daughter lives there, so
Cool.
I can always stop by and get you on a good program.
I appreciate it. Yeah, I need one, man. His hips and knees start hurting, and I can't even, I still talk trash to my kids every now and then, and just on sheer heart, I can overcome them. But that's good. Actually, I think my daughter would beat me in a 400 right now, for sure.
Do you ever in flag football pick off the quarterback, like when you're showing them just really start dancing on the field like the good old days?
Oh, yeah. I definitely go out there, but fortunately, I'm just smarter than them at this point, football-wise, so I don't need to be explosive. I just set them up and get a pick and spike it in the middle of the field and leap to the sideline.
To the sideline, yeah. 11 off, they got it. So let's say Domonique Foxworth Show, Charlie Kravitz takes over, and they offer you position as NFL commissioner. How are you making the NFL product better? And what are some important things about building a good team and organization, and some mistakes that you see that teams make in going down the tubes?
Okay, well, I mean, I think this is probably not what Roger would want to hear, but the way to make the game better is to stop adding games. I feel like football is at a sweet spot, and I think that we keep trying to increase the revenue and moving in a direction that I would say that you guys, being close to baseball and also basketball, is very well aware of. There is such thing as too many games.
Mm-hmm.
There is such a thing as chasing the revenue too aggressively. So that would be my concern, is just I think the league does a good job of changing rules in order to keep it interesting and competitive and all that sort of stuff. But the other thing about organizations in general is I do think I think it was the Jerry Krause quote that everyone kind of gave him a hard time, saying organizations win championships, when Jordan was obviously winning the championships. I kind of think that Jerry Krause deserves some credit for that, because I think it's really true, man. It's not to take away from the players. The players are a part of an organization, but it doesn't seem to be a coincidence that consistently the most well-run and disciplined organizations are the ones that are consistently competitive. So I think that that's what I would go for, is just the cliche of culture beats strategy, or eat strategy for breakfast. Is I do think culture is adaptable, and as strategies change, it's important to decide on the culture and not be kind of go with the flow about what the culture is. Decide what your culture is going to be, and then institute the actions, behaviors, and acceptable language and attitude that you have to police it and institute it, and make sure you bring in people that are comfortable with it. That it sounds a lot easier than it is, but having been a part of a couple in Baltimore and Denver were places that I was oh yeah, they know what they want. They're very specific and deliberate about the things that they want and the things that they don't want, and from the top all the way down to the players, they're on the same page.
Yeah, Newsom and Harbaugh have done an exceptional job in Baltimore and rebuilding that franchise with Lamar Jackson and the whole team that they have around them. You have a very or somewhat well-known interaction with Carolina Panthers owner Jerry Richardson regarding more games. Are you going to elaborate on that? This is public knowledge. You can
Sure. Yeah, this was I think this is a story Seth Wickersham reported, but yeah, it was back when I was an executive committee member of the Players Association, and we were negotiating during the lockout. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but Jerry Richardson, who is dead now, rest in peace, was trying a bunch of different tactics, and I think he was at this point of trying to intimidate us, and was saying that, and I was full of my own bravado too, and he was arguing that they could continue the league without the players, essentially, and I was they didn't need us because because we were not as valuable, I guess, as the organizations and the names and the logos. And I think I said something to the effect of good luck filling up the stadium with Ryan Leaf or something like that. And then and then it was like F you, and I was like F you, and it was just a whole big nonsense theatrical thing that it was very, very like stereotypical masculine bullshit. But we finally got to an agreement eventually.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was sad, but it was
So
funny.
with that being said, what separates a good organization from a bad organization? Like, well, what do you think in your perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just first of all, I think there are a bunch of different ways and styles of culture to have success, but I think it's about picking one and being true to it, right? Mm-hmm. And being flexible to understand what you have, but also understanding where you can't budge. And it's hard because sometimes it's easier to move on certain decisions at certain times. And that's what I would say is like kind of the definition of having some sort of culture and understanding that when things go wrong, particularly in football, when you're in the playoffs and it's a single elimination tournament, like you lose a game, it doesn't mean that everything's broken. And it could, but being honest about your assessment and figuring out not winning a championship doesn't mean that no one knows what they're doing or whatever. It just means that sometimes you need to shift things. But the Jerry Richardson story that I just told is one that gets a lot of attention. But like I mentioned, I think Jerry was just trying a tactic because I think he invited me to lunch a couple of days later. And then we sat down at lunch and he told me how smart I was and how bright my future was. And I think he was trying another tactic then. So like, it's funny because we tell that story and it feels like it was just like this contentious, crazy, aggressive thing. Like, nah, Jerry's a seasoned negotiator. He's like, oh, can I scare him? Nope, that didn't work. All right. Can I smooth him? We'll see what happens. Yeah.
So, given being part of the NFLPA and you made your way over to the NBA, how did that differ? What was the differences between the organizations? Was there a lot between both? Can you elaborate on it a little bit?
I think the biggest difference was the NBA is full of quarterbacks, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And that one of the most challenging things about the NFL Players Association was quarterbacks are a little different. They have a disproportionate amount of fame and power and influence and money. So sometimes it's challenging to get them on the same page and understand that they have to be on the same page because they are the ones who most people know and care about. And that was a challenge. It was infinitely more challenging in the NBA because everyone feels that way. It's like only the quarterbacks feel like they're a little bit different from us. It's like, yeah, you guys are football players, but we're quarterbacks. In the NBA, everyone is like their own entire organization within themselves. And so like being able to try to galvanize a group like that is incredibly challenging. And I think also in basketball, because their careers are so much longer and because they are like pinpointed very early and normally it's easy and those guys, are going to be there. They have deep relationships with people in the league from the beginning. Like sometimes they have better relationships and more trust with league employees than they do with union employees, which again makes for a more complicating factor. So I do think running the basketball union can be a little harder in some ways.
Is your relationship with professional athletes different now that you're in the media?
Yeah, I mean, I think I didn't have a bunch of, like I was an athlete and I had relationships with my friends and teammates, but in the period between then and when I started to work in media, I think the relationship with athletes has kind of shifted in more based on like age and generation than anything else. It's like I don't feel any differently, but like I'm not one of them anymore. And I don't like the jokes and the music and all other stuff. Like I think my instinct is when I go into locker rooms now or when I'm around players now, my instinct is like to be one of the fellas, but I'm not. And like I quickly am reminded. I don't know that I would do that now, but like the first thing is like, you want to say, what's up? You want to like, oh yeah, I'm one of you. And then you learn pretty quickly, no, you're actually not one of them anymore. You're, you're one of the old guys, and which is fine. It's just an interesting shift that no one tells you when it happens, but it's clear that it's happening where they start to be a little bit more proper around you, and they yeah, they clean up their language, and it's just like, oh yeah, I'm your goddamn dad now, huh?
So for you as a player, when you went through retirement, well, what was that like, that transition from being an NFL player to like going into the real world? What was that like?
It was hard. I think I thought it was going to be easy for me, and no matter how many stories I read about it being difficult for other people, I thought it'd be easy for me because, like I mentioned, I was always a pretty good student, and I always had aspirations to do more, and I like viewed myself as like a smart athlete, and I think that what I imagined was the problem for people who had issues was they didn't have anything else, and their identity was so tied up in them being an athlete that once that was taken away, they didn't really know who they were. And I was watching this happen to people, particularly as a president of the union. Like, that ain't me though. And then it's like, no, it is. No matter, like, first of all, I'm not that much like there is the distribution of intelligence in the NFL is probably similar to the same in everyday life. And so like I wasn't smarter than anybody. And as much as I thought that I had some other like identity outside of football, I was like, no, you spent your whole life playing football. Like it's going to be hard. There's going to be some remaking. There's going to be some challenges. There's going to be some confusion when you go from having a life that's pretty clear with direction, where it's like, I think this was the hardest thing, was understanding that the goal isn't always clear. Mm-hmm. And for me in football, it's always clear. It's like, all right, make the team, become a starter, win a championship. Yeah, it's obvious. And then when you're like, oh shit, all right, so what do I want to do? What makes me happy, or what makes enough money? What is like, and what is success? What am I aiming for? And there's so many different, like, do I want to start this new career, or do I want to go explore investing over here? There's like, so it's the amount of freedom that you are like confronted with at a time in your life where like most people aren't is very interesting, because they're traditional transition periods. It's like high school, college, retirement. It's like, it's not 30. It's normally not 30 for an adult man. It's not be like, hey, now it's time for transition. It's like us and child actors and all the people who like have this weird transition points.
Domonique Foxworth and Macaulay Culkin.
Yeah, that's it.
You've speaking of that, so the transition, you've obviously carved yourself out a great area with your show, and I think you've been on pretty much everyone's show on every major media network. You're obviously very thoughtful, articulate, have incredible experience in a lot of aspects of life. How do you differentiate yourself and your show and the people you surround yourself against the outrage media, the first takes, the who's the first to report this draft pick? Because that's a big section of sports media,
right? And
your show is just great banter, analysis. You have a lot of bald media members on. How do you do it, and what makes it so successful?
I mean, I think honestly, I'm a big podcast guy, and listening to them, I don't watch them as much, but I mean, I certainly do appreciate people watch ours on YouTube and on TV when they put it on ESPN too. But I think about what I like in them, and honestly, it's about hanging out with friends, and that's and so I think as obviously there's a more like we're aware that people are listening and watching, so there is some like level of entertainment that we like turn up our personalities, but I can't try to be someone I'm not. I don't have the sources to be like a newsbreaker, so like I can't be that. I don't have the disposition to like get all worked up about stuff that I don't actually care about. So like I think it's just being a friend, honestly, is like when I want people to be excited the same way I feel when there's something like a new podcast from somebody that I like comes out. I wonder, oh yeah, wonder what he or she thinks about this. And I think that's as much of a strategy as anything. And Charlie gives me a hard time because I call it a personality show when it's actually like a sports show. But I think people like being part of the inside jokes and understanding our personality, and they like predicting where we're going to agree and disagree. And they like when we're wrong and we make fun of each other, because it's like on your commute to work, it's like how you are with your friends.
Where you're authentically yourself.
Yeah.
And Charlie said that you're one of us. And to me, I know exactly what that means. So I said, I think Domonique and I are going to be buddies.
That sounds good. I'm down.
Which is great. Dude, so I have to ask you. So Riz is in Boston. I'm originally from Boston. You may have a somewhat controversial take on your experiences facing two famous quarterbacks, Peyton Manning and Tom Brady. So we've just some unbiased analysis from someone who has faced them on the field. And just a reminder that when Tom Brady was your age, he was still winning Super Bowls.
It's an excellent reminder. I think that when I was playing against Peyton Manning was always harder than playing against Tom Brady. Obviously, Peyton Manning has had the much better, more impressive, and longer, more accomplished career. But at the time, both of those got the guys at their peak. The most stressful thing about Peyton Manning was he was kind of the first quarterback / offensive coordinator where they would not huddle, and he would watch so much film that he knew what you were doing, and he'd pick your defense apart. It was stressful and frustrating. I had plenty of success against Tom Brady. Like, we lost him some, but we won some in all the different places that I played. I never beat Peyton Manning, no matter where I played. We held him to 13 points in Baltimore and still lost. But it was a challenge, man. The mental part of the game, and I think Tom developed a lot more of that. As you mentioned, he was still winning Super Bowls, so he played for a lot longer. I think Tom definitely reached that level. But when I was playing against him, he was great, obviously, but he wasn't that level that Peyton was with the mental part of the game. Was that diplomatic enough? Could you guys still be my friend?
Yeah. So when Peyton yells Omaha or Brady yells Rita, do you shit your pants in the field? Like, what happens?
No, most of the time it's we've had some good stories. So, like, when I was in Baltimore, it was I remember watching film with Ed Reed, and Ed is the same type of football genius that Peyton was, and it really helped me understand. I know my first couple weeks playing with Ed, it was hard, and I was like, but you're not where you're supposed to be, and this is messing me up. And then I watched film with him, and I was like, oh, it's because you're so much smarter than me and everyone else. And, like, if I could understand what you're seeing, and then I played much better after I got a sense of that. One of the stories that I like to tell about Ed is it's happened a couple of times, but most famously against Peyton Manning, where we had studied film about what they were doing, and they studied about what we were doing. And so we knew that he knew if we did this, then he could do that. So us knowing that, then Ed's like, all right, if he knows that we know that he's going to do this when we do that, then he's going to try to do something different. And I remember a specific play where they would repeat successful plays and hurry up to make sure that we couldn't change coverages. So they had this comeback on with Reggie Wayne. They threw the comeback in front of me and caught it. They hustled back to the line, and Ed looks to me. He was like, okay. And so Ed and I knew that if they do that and I'll sit on the comeback, they'll convert to a go. And Ed, so he snapped the ball, and Peyton checks the middle field, looks at Ed. So Ed takes 2 steps away from me, and then he turns back to find Reggie Wayne running the comeback. I sit on the comeback, so Reggie converts to a go, and Ed runs over the top and gets the interception. And it just, my view, like, one of the coolest things that I've ever been a part of. We did it to, actually we did it with Haruki Nakamura, was another safety that we had, who I think got a pick in Green Bay against Aaron Rodgers because he was doing a similar thing. So that's like some of the coolest things I remember about playing was when we would have those, like, sophisticated chess matches on the field, and then everyone's just out there like, oh, Ed's so fast. It's like, no, Ed's so smart. Like, he's fast. I get it.
That's like,
but he's actually really smart.
That's pretty good. You got in Peyton's head. He's like, damn, they beat me at my game.
We still lost.
Yeah, well, it was a great play. It was a great play. One of the best I've seen.
That's the play that Bill Belichick says that
Best he's seen.
Best play a free safety has ever made.
Yep. That's that play. That's exactly that play. At another point in that game, Peyton tricked us with we anticipated when he's QB under in the red zone, you get a double slant. And so we were ready to take it away. They ran a switch route instead and got a touchdown. And it was my guy who scored it. And it was like Austin Collie or somebody like that. Someone was like, he's a fine NFL receiver, but like I don't really want to be giving up touchdowns to Austin Collie. It was just Peyton just outsmarted us on that one.
It's kind of interesting because you have critics that are at home, that the couch coaches, right?
Yeah.
Not knowing what you guys are thinking or scheming, right? And those are plays like when we watched that play, I'm like, wow, he got beat. But you guys actually talked about how you laid off the coverage so Ed could come in. So for us now, looking at that, like it's definitely a different way of thinking of playing the football game.
Oh, yeah. No, it happens all the time. It's one of the most frustrating things about watching games, particularly as a cornerback, where it's like cornerbacks get blamed for everything and y'all don't know what's going on. And the commentators don't even know what's going on sometimes. They've gotten a lot better, but I remember quite a few times where guys are like, he got beat deep. It's like you're in cover 2. He's like a flat defender. You could criticize him for not getting a good enough reroute. That's fine, but you didn't point that out. You just say he got run by. Like, of course he got run by. That's not his responsibility. But
yeah,
it is what it is.
Is there anyone you were ever matched up against or preparing to play, wide receiver wise or tight end wise, that you said, this guy is just so over the top better than I am, or he's a monster and I just have to keep him under 100 yards or something like that?
I mean, the answer to the question is no. No one I thought about that going into the game. But the actual answer to the question is, were there people like that? Is yes. Did I ever think it? I didn't allow myself to. Like I remember the closest I remember getting to that was when I was in Denver and I was with Champ and we were playing Oakland and Randy Moss was out there and I was very confused. Why aren't we traveling our best corner with Randy Moss? What the hell's going on? I played well because Oakland wasn't good. And then when I got to Baltimore and Randy was in New England, I was the best corner on the team in Baltimore. And then they had me traveling with Randy. I'm like, what the hell is going on? Doesn't make sense. But yeah, we play. I remember there was a cover 2 in there. I got a tip hand on the ball and Ed picked it off in one of those games. And also, I think Randy scored a game-winning touchdown on me, which sucked because we did 0 blitz at the end of the game, and I was pressing Randy in that situation, and I got over the top, and I'm waiting for the fade because I knew it was coming. But Ed, being the great player that he is, blitzed and slapped Tom Brady's elbow, which caused an underthrow. and Randy's eyes were back, so he could come back and get it and scored the touchdown. I was so pissed because I wasn't supposed to be pressing there, but I was all full of ego and was like, let me get up here. And because I thought that if I pressed him, it would force him to convert, if there's anything, and convert to a fade. So I was like, all right, if I press him, it'll narrow the amount of routes I have to cover. And I don't care how big or tall or great he is. If I know what you're running, you're not going to be able to get it all. So I was like, all right, I'm going to make him run a fade, go cover the fade. Made him run a fade, went and covered the fade. Ed got pressure and caused the underthrow, and he undercut it and caught it because I couldn't see because I had my back to him. But anyway, it's not like I remember it or I lose any sleep over it.
Yeah, right. 15 years later.
So to be sensitive with time, a couple more questions here. I think I think Cam wrote this down. What's your analysis of Drake May? Do you have one? What's your thought about him and the future of New England?
I mean, I think you got a player. There's a baseline, it seems like, with the quarterback position of talent that is important to have. It doesn't feel like, if you look around the league at the good quarterbacks, there are very few that are like the quarterbacks that we grew up watching. There's very few Tom Brady's or Peyton Manning's or Drew Brees' left. There's a level of arm strength and athleticism that it seems like you have to reach any type of success in the league. he has that. It appears that he has whatever attitude that he needs to come along with it. He needs to learn to protect himself a little bit better. But I think Mike Vrabel is also an incredible coach. Like, not that Boston needs any more success in sports, but I think you guys are well positioned to have another good run with that collection of coach and quarterback.
What do you think of the refereeing? And you can be as political as you want, because we all sit on our couch and we say, that's a terrible call. Why would they do that? Why did they call holding? That's not pass interference. That's obviously pass interference. Why didn't they call it? You played cornerback. What's your opinion now watching?
I think the refereeing is pretty damn good. I think where I get frustrated is I think that there are rules that are not applied the way that they are written, but I think they're applied the way that the league wants them to be applied because they're applied consistently. So, like, as a defensive back, I think when the ball's in the air, everyone's supposed to have the same right to the ball. And it's clear that the DBs aren't treated the same way. And I hate it, but it's consistent. So I think that's all that matters. If it's consistent, like, I think the officiating is pretty good. Like, it's not nearly as difficult to watch as basketball officiating. Like, we're in the middle of the NBA playoffs, and it's like, I don't know, like, yeah, that's a foul most of the time, but it hasn't been at all today. Like, that's the thing that, like, is tough for me, is the inconsistency. Like, I think NFL officials are really, really damn consistent. And as much as, like, we all kind of, I think, are annoyed by the review process, like, I think the NFL does a good job of it and does it fast and corrects calls and are pretty accurate with the reviews. Again, not to pick on basketball, I love it, but I'll watch a basketball review and it's like, I don't know what to expect because, like, yeah, I think just I don't know when you're gonna put this one out, but like last night I was watching the Pacers Knicks game. It was like, even I think it was Stan Van Gundy in the calls, like, that hasn't been a foul. It was a big moment where Halliburton was driving to try to tie the game or something like that. And I think Miles Bridges stuck his hand out and, like, touched his chest. It was like, technically that's a foul. But it hasn't been a foul all playoffs. Hasn't been a foul this entire game. It hasn't been a foul all series. So, like, what do you do with that? But anyway, it's just I say all that to say it's a hard job, and I just want consistency. And I think the NFL does a good job of that.
No, it's reassuring to know that for sure.
We need more Ed Hockleys in the league.
Guns out.
All right, final question. Do you have any funny Charlie stories?
I don't know that I have any stories that you would find funny. Like, he gives me a hard time because his obsession with ice cream and food in general, like, I find hilarious how he has did you know that he has a list on his phone of favorite ice cream places in the country? Oh, no, favorite ice cream places in the DC metro area.
I believe
it's a ranking, and he changes it. It's like, what are you doing? Like, why do you love food this much? It is confusing to me. And if you ever go to any city, Charlie will give you recommendations of restaurants. And so, like, I know that doesn't sound weird, but I mean any city, every single city. Like, it's not like, hey, you're going to New York, you try this out. It's like random, like, oh, we're driving through Charlottesville. He's like, oh yeah, there's a place down there. That's great. He's weirdly obsessed with sports and food. It's just,
I need to get that list from him for the ice cream when I'm down there. And the other place, we go to Call Your Mother Deli, which is ridiculous.
Yeah, it is great.
It's so good.
My kids get mad at me because I'm like, no, we're not going to Call Your Mother. They just love it all the time, every morning. Yeah, Charlie has a bunch of weird lists on his phone. Next time you talk to him, he'll give you his top 23 NBA players of all time. He also has a list of players that he'd rather take the final shot more than Jason Tatum. That's right. Yeah, just ask him to go through random lists on his phone. He's a damn loser.
We asked him Jordan or LeBron, and that was like that threw him over the edge.
Oh, yeah, he hates it. He can't bring himself to choose. He's a Jordan guy, though. I know. Ultimately, he landed on Jordan would be my guess.
He's actually a LeBron guy. We've been talking about this for 20 years.
Oh, so he's been lying to me.
Here you go.
I knew Domonique publicly. Yeah,
just trolling me.
Domonique, this was amazing. We appreciate your time. We'll have to do it again and have Charlie with us.
Oh, I can't wait. It'll be fun.
What do you think, Cam?
That'd be great. Domonique, it was so awesome. Thanks for coming.
Appreciate your time, man.
See you guys. Good talking.
Have an awesome weekend. Thanks for listening to Behind the Sports Medicine Podcast. Follow us on social media and check out our website.
The information shared on this podcast is for educational and informational purposes only and is not intended as medical advice. Please consult a licensed healthcare provider for guidance related to your specific situation. We'll see you next week.